Hello, how are you doing? I'm doing relatively well. I have a little bit of a head cold going on, but that's okay. I'm not complaining. I know that it's temporary and it will pass. Um, I just thought I would link back to an older video that I made. I should put it in a card right up there. Editor self, pay attention. Um, There was a video I made, and the thumbnail said, "You're special," I think, and the video itself was about access and allowing people access, and how oftentimes we're told to just kind of grant anybody and everybody access to us, and how that can be really detrimental to us if we just do that kind of thing. Not saying to not be friendly or anything like that. It's just that it's important to be so discerning about who gets involved in your life, and who is allowed closer in for, more intimacy in whatever kind of way that is for that relationship. I'm not just talking about romantic ones, but, friends and family too. In my case, for a really long time, and I mean a really long time, I did not and would not include my dad in any aspect of my life. I mean, I just barely communicated with him when our baby was born and all that. He just turned 16 years old yesterday, as a side note. Yes, I was 16-year-old. Anyway, when that baby was just born and was a baby, I let my dad know about it, and, grudgingly let him have a visit, but I didn't really want him to. And I certainly didn't want his wife involved, because at that time I was in a bad place with my relationship with him. I truly believed that he had wronged my mother horrifically. I was convinced that he had wronged me in an irreparable way. I was convinced that he was just the most uncaring, cartoonish, Snidely Whiplash, with the mustache, villain. I just thought, fine, go to hell. I hope you choke. That was the attitude. But in 20 years of, him having his separate life and my mom having her separate life, so many things have come to light, and I'm just like, oh no. Of course, that makes sense that I would have thought that way, because that was the only information I had, was that. I didn't have any other information. So my opinion was based on one side of the story and not both. And it wasn't even my own thoughts. It was the things that I was programmed to think all throughout my formative years from my mom. And then she was delivering all this information that, oh, he did this and that and the other thing, and I'm pointing fingers and I'm really choked at him. And even though I was an adult, I kind of went along with what she said and just took it completely at face value, and proceeded to just shut the door and just be like, you are the worst person in the world. If everybody that you are associated with now knew what it was like, I keep hitting this lamp. If people knew what it was like living under the same roof as you, you have cultivated an image, my good sir, with these people. They didn't know you before the way I know you from before. But I was completely omitting the notion that people can change and people can grow is very much a possibility. At that point, I didn't believe that was a thing. I thought the only people who change and evolve are, charlatans who suddenly come to Jesus or something like that. Now pay me lots of money. It was a scam. It was somebody saying one thing, but really thinking and feeling another way, but in order to con you for some money or reason, they're going to say something different, right? That's sort of the way I was operating all the time. So I didn't believe that it was even possible for my dad to, go on to have his own life experience and to actually learn from those new experiences, those new people, that the world is a little different probably than what he would have believed before, because he only had those limited perspectives before, right? I know I'm not saying anything overly new here, but I just thought I would, in that so often, right, when we're making important choices, like if we're going to get married, have an education, what kind of career we're going to pursue, if we're going to have a family or not, stuff like that. Big things like that. We often think, well, because we're forced to make them earlier in life, we think that we are, we know information about the choice we're making. We believe that that we've got the information, right, that we really need. And how many of us, right, have gone through life, made the choice, whatever choice we're talking about, and then 25 years later, you look back on that choice. How many of us have done that and been like, whoa, I would have made a completely different choice had I known all of the subsequent things that were going to happen as a result of making that choice that way? How many of us? All of us, I would have to say. If not, well, either you're really, really lucky, or you're maybe wanting to believe something else, to put it nicely. Anyway, if you really believe that you went through life and you didn't make any mistakes, it's probably likely that you're not watching this video anyhow, so I won't worry about that. It happens to us all, and what I didn't consider back in the day was how my dad was also, 25 years younger when he was going through all of these things. When he was being this cartoon villain, as I said before, he was that much younger himself, going through all of these things himself for the first time. So it's kind of illogical to then, judge him by a different standard, right? I hope that makes sense. I feel like that's something that needs to be addressed in many areas of life, and it's as a result of, current events and the fact that I think there's a susceptibility for us to only look at things from one angle all the time. And we don't want to change that angle because it is providing us with information that maybe we want to have, even if it's negative information, like my dad's a cartoon villain and I hate him. That was feeding a certain part of my ego at the time that wanted something to be mad about. It's one of those things about being young. I think you want to be fired up about stuff. At least I certainly did. Some of us turn that energy into something positive, like activism. Others of us don't, and we just want to brood about something that cannot be changed, like a certain type of history with a parent, for example. Yeah, even if the information that we are seeing is negative, it's somehow the information we want, so we tend to just focus on that. And it takes something else happening to help us and kind of shake us out of that slumber that we kind of fall into, right? And if we are in the right frame of, well, I don't want to say mind, because you're not thinking necessarily in order to do this. You're observing the feelings, which is not thought. You're just conscious, right? You have to be in a certain position that way in order to be able to look at an old chestnut of a problem that you might have been dealing with all your life and see it in this different way and be like, oh, that's why they did that. That's why they said that. That's why they didn't do this and they didn't do that. Or, you know, that's the missing piece. That's why it happened this way. But it happened this way so that I can now, here, right in this moment, understand it all. Because now I've got all the information, the fullness of time, right? As the Queen said famously. I have that fullness of time working for me now. Of course, I can forgive the stupid things that might have gone on before, because you didn't have all the information, I certainly didn't have all the information, and we were both younger people, for example. And, you know, I feel compelled to put this out just because I don't know if I can articulate, really, just how seethingly outraged I was for so long at my dad and many, many others in my family, and just completely fell away from everybody because I thought I was protecting myself by doing that. I thought these people are all horrible people. What? Oh my God. No, they aren't. It's just they were being human beings, and I was being a human being, and that's okay. That's who we are. So we are human, if nothing else. So it only makes sense to have to come to terms with that and be able to forgive that person. And when you do, it feels like such a weight has been lifted, and they are suddenly allowed that access that I was referring to earlier on. And you start to realize who actually deserves that access and who doesn't, and who made you kind of believe that it was okay for them, but not somebody else. You become aware of the choices that you make about that for yourself too. And, you know, in my case, look back and go, oh, I had an allegiance to one person, and it turned out to kind of be the wrong person. Okay. Well, good to know. That's my big lesson from all of that experience, is just you can't take anybody at face value necessarily. You have to be aware of what their thing is and what their thing is and what your own thing is, for lack of a better way of putting it. Everybody has their own perspective, and sometimes, a lot of times, that perspective is very much first-person experiential in the trenches, rather than from command, which would be up above on higher ground, and they're the ones doling out the orders, right? Like, I know it's a military analogy, but it's kind of like that, right? The people in the trench can't see squat. They just have to take your word for it that it's time to run out and start shooting. But it's the people that are above, that are looking down, doling out the orders, that are seeing all of the strategy and trying to work strategically. Not that we're trying to work strategically in our day-to-day relationships, but it's the analogy I came up with. Considering I'm having a little bit of a head cold, I think I did all right. So, it was nice to see ya. I'll let you go. I've been prattling for a while. Of course, all of the YouTube engagement things. There's a subscribe button and a video down there, of course. I hope you will watch more and help me on my quest to monetization this year. That would be so great. We're already almost through January, so we still have some time, but the sooner the better. So I will see you later.